Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone and rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noah's in his gospel, broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. Breaking news. As we understand, last night or yesterday, Trump retaliated and targeted 3 of Iran's, I believe, nuclear sites, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, nuclear facilities have been totally obliterated. We know that Trump gave the speech about 2 weeks, but more like 2 days. And that's the spirit, because we mentioned it at the camp. And I said specifically, they're creating some type of diversionary tactic. And the brothers, and we all agreed. And basically, the brothers was like, well, usually when he said 2 weeks, he could probably mean like a day or two. 9 times out of 10, he's going to strike before that. And that was clearly the case, because, the same ordeal with Ukraine. Well, with Ukraine and Russia going back to 2022, and also when the Houthis and Israel and so forth, the October 7 ordeal. Trump has given his opinion or his fact in certain issues, and what he stated he was going to do, he ended up doing it a little earlier than what anticipated, which is a diversionary tactic. Okay. Old trick, the element of surprise. But the Iranians expected it, because they understand that Israel has to back America through blood. So no matter what, they're going to have to back the small hats. So it's looking like this is getting ready to be a regional-wide conflict, depending on how the Iranians respond. And it's looking like Russia and China and so forth, they're on standby, because they have interest in Iran's. I'll put it to you this way, when it comes to particular resources, Iran have particular resources that these other nations can use. And in tandem, they offer protection to the smaller nations, man. All right. So what we're saying is a buildup of these nations choosing sides to get ready for that great battle, because this conflict that's transpiring in the Middle East is the conflict that can bring back Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. But first and foremost, you have to understand that prophecy must be fulfilled. And you know what? Hey, it's looking good for us, man. But for the rest of you people, you through. Okay? You through. Your livelihoods and things like that is getting ready to take a turn for the left, because they mentioned if America goes directly to war with Iran, you can expect the $8 to $10 a gallon gas prices, man, because we understand Iran, when it comes to oil, you got the Strait of Hormuz, you have particular resources that the West harbors in order to establish their society, so to speak. But overall, man, it's not going to be looking good for the American consumer. So things can get very, very expensive very, very quick, depending on how Iran responds to this, man. Okay? So it says a spectacular military success. Trump says bully Iran's nuclear facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Now, that's an act of war, because you're attacking their facilities and so forth. What make you think that you're just going to get away with that? Because it's like you playing with fire now, man, because that's exactly what they wanted you to do. So it says, while Iran has not yet retaliated against U.S. targets after the Pentagon carried out President Trump's unconstitutional order to attack 3 Iranian nuclear facilities in the early hours of Sunday morning, local time, Iran has lashed out against Israel with broad daylight ballistic missile barrages that caused major destruction in Tel Aviv. So they fucking Tel Aviv up. Pink City. How ironic, right? Pink City, which is the capital of, I believe this is the capital of Israel, Tel Aviv, which Tel Aviv is a modern day Ashdod. But you have all types of wickedness that's transpiring in the land of Israel right now. So there's no coincidence that that city is a hotbed of destruction, and really the whole state. But it says here, Israeli authorities reported at least 86 people have been wounded and suspected impact in Haifa may have been caused by the manufacturing Israeli interceptor rocket. Now, this is the aftermath. Damn. So it says here, according to a state broadcaster, Iran has launched its largest ballistic missile to date, the Khorramshahr 4 missile, with the 1,500 kilogram warhead. It says military analysis said the heavy payload keeps the weapon within the little publicized 2,000 kilometer missile range, which the Ayatollah Khamenei has set as the country's maximum. Describing the strikes on Israel, Iran announced that the 20th wave of Operation Honest Promise began using a combination of long-range liquid and solid fuel missiles with devastating warhead power. It says with targets including the Biological Research Center, logistics facilities, command and control centers, Ben Gurion Airport. But Israel said it launched attacks on military targets in western Iran, claiming to destroy 2 Iranian fighter jets and 8 missile launchers, man. So they're basically just attacking particular landmarks and particular sites, weaponry and command centers to offset the communications. But this is pretty much a full-blown war at this point, and it's going to escalate because that's what the scriptures say. But it says, for now, Iran has only fired strong words at the United States, such as this foreign minister's statement. It said, this world must not forget that it was the United States during an ongoing diplomatic process that betrayed diplomacy by supporting the aggressive action of the genocidal and lawless Israeli regime. That's true. It says, now by completing the chain of violations and crimes committed by the Zionist regime, the U.S. has itself launched a dangerous war against Iran. It says the Islamic Republic of Iran reserves its right to resist with full force against U.S. military aggression and crimes committed to this rogue regime to defend Iran's security and national interests. So there you go. So basically, they saying, well, look, we have the right to defend ourselves. And why Iran? They can't do anything with America. Okay, they don't have the military power to do anything. That's a losing battle. That's a suicide mission for Iran to take on America by itself. But see, they got a secret weapon, which is called China and Russia. Okay, and with those two nations combined, they can overpower the United States, man, because of the weaponry. Because by far, United States, Russia, and China, those are the world's power. Those are the big three right there. With Russia and China being able to substantially destroy the U.S., it's not looking too good for America. But, they swore by oath to protect the small hats, so this is where they are. While the average person is duck hunting in the city and playing games, man, you people are getting ready to see a quick and abrupt change of life, man. Okay, because they're going to have to bring back a draft eventually. Whether it be conventional or untraditional, we don't know. All right, but eventually these cities are going to be hit because they said a list of U.S. cities that's possibly under attack by sleeper cell agents, and Kansas City, Missouri made the list, which is not surprising. Chicago, Illinois, New York, of course, those big major powerhouses, they're on the list to be hit. And they're going to get hit anyway, because once the missiles are shot over here, this whole land, from point A to point Z, is not going to be nothing but desert. Everything you see around you will eventually be turned into desert. This shit will be disintegrated. Okay, you ain't going to know apartment. You ain't going to know where your apartment was at, where you parked your vehicle at. You can't tell where you was in the living room playing your PlayStation 5. All this shit is getting ready to be totally obliterated in due time. All right? We're just waiting on that major prophecy of the mark of the beast, the MOTB, the RFID chip, to be implemented. Then when that's implemented, this thing would already been escalated. So it's looking like it's getting ready to escalate, just depending on what Iran decide to do. All right, so let me get a couple of precepts here. Jeremiah 51, and let's start at verses 11. It says, make bright the arrows and gather the shields. The Lord have raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes. Okay, you got the Russians. Okay, you got the Persians or the Iranians or the Carmenians. Okay, which is the modern day Iranians today. It says, have raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it because it is the vengeance of Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple. And who's the temple of the Lord? The Israelites, our people. Okay, we're the vengeance. We are the temple of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, man. We're his people. You see? And it says here, set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, and set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes. For Yahweh have both devised and done it, that which he spoke against the inhabitants of Babylon. But O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thy end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. So the Lord is stepping in now, man. Okay, and like I said, you know, we're still in the beginning stages, the low stages, but eventually things will escalate because, you know, it's scripture that's in the Bible. Okay, but we still have to see how the other side responds to it. There can still possibly be peace talks in the midst because, you know, they always want to find a quote-unquote diplomatic solution, but that's not going to be the case because Esau, he does not know how to cohabitate peace. It's impossible for him. But it says, but the Lord of hosts have sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. And he that made the earth by his power, he have established the world by his wisdom, and have stretched out the heavens by understanding. Right. But it says, fill thee with men as caterpillars, because you got soldiers over here. You have foreign nationals over here. Now all of a sudden they're talking about, well, we have to, these cities is on alert, that city is on alert. And the fact that Trump retaliated against Iran, now that puts the likelihood of these cities possibly being attacked, according to them, at an all-time high. So these cities are on high alert, man. So be careful for big events. You know, whatever you may be, you know, your brothers may be out there in the cities or whatever you may do, just be careful to stay away from larger crowds and gatherings and all that other stuff, because those are soft targets, man. All right. So anyway, reading on, and I got a couple of videos, by the way. The Spirit just hopped on me to do the lesson. I didn't even have it prepared, but I knew through the Spirit I was going to speak on it, because this is the, you know, we're in a time of war. Okay, this is what the scriptures say. But it says here, separately, the Iranian foreign minister, Abbas, Araghchi, said that Iran reserves all options to defend its sovereignty, interests, and people, and emphasized that attacks on nuclear facilities violate the Non-Proliferation Treaty, UN Charter, and international law, and America is good for doing that. Like they mentioned, it was unconstitutional because before you make any type of war move or anything, you have to go through Congress first. This is why a lot of times when they don't get approved, they set up proxies to do the bidding, so they can go ahead and pretty much slip in unnoticed. And that's what Babylon's been doing, setting up proxies, man. It says, either seeking to manage the escalating ladder or to sucker punch the Iranians via deceitfully diplomacy. For a third time, the Trump administration has contacted Iran to reassure officials that the American strikes on Iranian nuclear strikes were, it says, were a one-off attack rather than the commencement of an all-out regime change war, a U.S. official told the Wall Street Journal. But it says in other developments, there have been great uncertainty whether America's 30,000-pound GBU-57, which is a massive ordnance penetrator bombs, were capable of penetrating a mountain under which Iran's Fordo nuclear enrichment facility is buried. It says, going all out, 6 B-2 bombers dropped a 4 dozen of enormous bunker busters on the site, the U.S. official tells the New York Times. It says it's the first time the bombs have been used in warfare, and the jets flew non-stop for roughly 37 hours with multiple refilling en routes, man. And those B-2 bombers, a lot of that shit is outdated. It says, but Trump claimed Iran's nuclear facility has been completely and totally obliterated, but the jury is still out. It says we won't know for sure until the morning what was taken out, but our belief is that we took out everything we wanted to, a senior U.S. official told the Journal. So there you go. They attacked. So like I said, it's just a matter if they're going to retaliate or not, man. All right. Let's see what they say here. Let's look at this.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not
you got some fucking nerve, man. Where have Iran ever caused you people problems, man? Okay, now we're not saying that Iran don't have a share of mishaps and you know, a share of mishaps and doing wickedness, but come on, man. That's the pot calling the kettle black. The bullies in the Middle East is the fucking small hats, man. That's why the whole world is gonna rise up against you devils, man. Because you're good at swearing narratives. Bunch of damn hypocrites. But it says here, when he uttered his voice, there's a multitude of waters in the heavens. And he caused the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. And he maketh lightnings with rain and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Man, let's go down a little bit, man. Let's go down start at verses 27. It says, set up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nations against her, call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, many in Ashkenaz. Like when you go into Ashkenaz, I think that was the son of Japhet, if I'm not mistaken. But you got the lands of Russia, you got Ukraine, you know, you got those particular blots that's coming up against Babylon. And it says, an appointed captain against her, and caused the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars, and prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and the land of his dominion. And the land should tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord should be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without habitation. So, yeah, inhabitants. So eventually these nations are going to rise up against you, and they're going to start to fight back. Okay, because the world has had enough of the small hats, and they've had enough of the U.S., and they understand that America is basically a pawn of Israel. They understand that. So
future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people.
But just a couple of years ago, you was condemning them, the war with Iran, when Obama was in office, man. You remember? You was condemning them, man. You said, no, that's not a good idea to fuck with Iran. But yet you're doing the same thing because your handlers tell you to do it. This dude, Trump, man, is just a hypocrite.
Hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless.
Yeah, they finna go to war, man. I mean, it's not looking too good. So, it says there has been no increase in radiation resulting from America's attacks on the three nuclear sites, but according to Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, the Saudi Nuclear and Radiological Regulatory Authority and International Atomic Energy Agency, a reassurance that has some people wondering about the strike's efficacy, particularly at Fordow. But it says an Iranian legislator who represent a city near the Fordow Enrichment Center said, contrary to the claims of the lying president of the United States, the Fordow nuclear installation has not been seriously damaged. And you heard what Trump just said. He said that they hit it with intense precision and with skill and speed. You know, he's boasting. The scriptures say his look was more stout than his fellows. But it says most of the affected areas were above ground and could fully be restored. But Iran's Atomic Energy Organization said, we don't allow the process of this national industry built on the blood of nuclear martyrs to be halted. But by martyrs, the organization is referred to several nuclear scientists murdered by the Israeli government, a campaign that spanned many years. But late to defending Congress' constitutional prerogative on war making, Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is among several legislators calling for a vote on the War Powers Act, saying no president should be allowed to unilaterally march this nation into something as consequential as war with erratic threats and no strategy. It says Schumer's indignation rings enormously hollow, and it comes just a few weeks after he taunted Trump over reports that he was pursuing a diplomatic solution using an acronym for Trump always chickens out. Schumer tweeted, if Taco Trump is already folding on Iran, the American people need to know about that. No side deals. So basically they saying he's a coward, but so yeah, man, it's a lot of fucking confusion, man. But regardless of it, Yahweh Shai is getting this thing moving. So it says the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. It says they remain in their holds. Their might have failed, and they become as women, and they have burnt our dwelling places, and our bars are broken. Yeah, your defense systems, man. Okay, because this place is going to be completely overtaken, because eventually what's happening is that you're getting your allies in a volatile situation as war as well. And somehow, some way, America's allies are going to turn against them in the midst of this conflict, because they're realizing that the small hats don't have the world's best interests. You see? But it says here, one post should run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end, and the current king of Babylon is Trump. And it says, and the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burnt with fire, and the men of war are frightened. All right, so yeah, man, it's not looking good for the average American or the military, because we know that the military is totally they're not equipped. Okay, yeah, you may be able to hit somebody with a bunker buster or press a button and destroy a city or level a city, but as far as hand-to-hand combat and boots on the ground, you're not equipped. And I'm gonna show a video of how the U.S. military, they lack total enthusiasm. They don't have the enthusiasm to fight, because they know that this is not their war, and they're realizing that out of all the money they've wasted in taxpayers' dollars, you know, sending over to Israel and to Ukraine to fight a forever war that only benefits the elites, the people, they like, you know what are we risking our lives for this for? You know, but somehow, some way, they gonna sell this draft to you people through the emergency orders of we're under imminent attack, which is gonna rise a lot of you patriots up to go and fight and die for a place that never cared for you. All right, Job 18, and I'm gonna start at verses 11. It says, terror should make him afraid on every side, and should drive him to his feet. Yeah, and you're hearing them saying all the time, oh, we have sleeper cells in these cities. But it says his strength is hunger bitten. It said his strength is hunger bitten, and destruction should be ready at his side, and it should devour the strength of his skin. Even the firstborn of death should devour his strength, which is Yahweh Shai. His confidence should be rooted out of his tabernacle and should bring him to the king of terrors. And it should dwell in his tabernacle because it is none of his, and brimstone should be scattered upon his habitations, man. All right. So yeah, missiles. All right. So anyway, I'm going to play a couple of these videos, but I'm going to close out giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you're edified. Until the next lesson. Shalom.
This is Dabu 7. I would prepare for blowback. I would prepare for some big event that's about to happen, because Trump just confirmed that strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities just went down, and that Air Force B-2 Spirit stealth bombers delivered the blow to the Fordo, the Natanz, and the Isfahan sites, 3 nuclear sites. He went on to state that the aircraft are out of the airspace, and the reports on the ground are devastation. And as you can see here, this is from the Fordo plant. They got hit underground. They had to use underground bunker busters to hit this facility, and they just did so. You can see here on the right the location of these places. Trump is going to give an address to the nation at 10 o'clock this evening to go over the details. I've warned about this for the longest time. We've known that this could escalate to something bigger. Iran does not have the military and the capabilities to come sending warships and everything our way. The one thing that they do have is a major cyber unit. Pompeo telegraphed that. He said that somewhere in the world it's going to get struck. It's pretty obvious we're behind this massive blow to the nuclear facilities. I would say prepare for cyber attacks for a major blow. This will not go without some kind of countermeasure. Blowback, as I call it. I would expect it at any time from here on out. So this is where we sit. I'll leave links. Join me on the live stream, going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, diving down the rabbit holes on this stuff and going over details to all these stories. Hope to see you guys there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here. Much love.
If you want to sell your house in the next 30 days and you're thinking about listing it with a realtor,
This is a Fox News alert. News from the President of the United States that there has been an attack inside Iran. Just moments ago, President Donald Trump putting out on Truth Social, we have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. Again, this from President Donald Trump. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Again, that's just seconds ago from President Donald Trump on Truth Social, suggesting that those B-2 bombers that perhaps were on the way may have been behind this. We'll get more details on these 3 sites that the president said has been attacked inside Iran. This comes after days of negotiations to try to get Iran to the negotiating table. The President of the United States saying it would have to be unconditional surrender, saying enrichment would have to stop. We heard from negotiations in Europe that that was not being accepted by the Iranians, that they would not stop enriching uranium. There was a thought that this could go as long as 2 weeks, as the president said he would decide within 2 weeks. However, 2 days is within 2 weeks. And now word from President Donald Trump that these attacks have happened. Again, interesting that 3 sites have been struck by U.S. bombers. And this, again, we'll get more information about the exact targets and what bombs were used. We expect that the GBU-57, the bunker buster, the massive penetrator bomb, may have been one of those used. Fordo is a nuclear facility inside Iran that is roughly a half-mile deep underneath a rock mountain-like facility that has been said to be the site of a lot of the enrichment capability. Esfahan, believed to be a storage facility for enriched uranium, and Natanz, another part of the nuclear facilities. They have several throughout Iran. It has been long described as a very difficult and tedious effort to go after these nuclear sites, but the U.S. for the first time launching an attack inside Iran. Again, the President of the United States saying all of the planes are out of Iranian airspace. The bombings do continue by the Israelis inside Iran as this back and forth volley between Israel and Iran has continued for some 2 weeks. We expect to hear more about this operation, not only from the Pentagon, but perhaps from the White House, although the White House this evening, has called a lid, as far as meaning no one will talk after that. That may be changing now. Obviously, we have this Truth Social post from President Donald.
All the in Trump's military parade were silently protesting. Many people noticed the soldiers didn't march in unison. They weren't in step, the lines were crooked, some looked like they didn't want to be there at all. Compare that to what we see in China or North Korea. Those parades are tight, robotic, every soldier in perfect lockstep, because in authoritarian regimes, military parades are a test of loyalty, a show of total control. But here in the US, well, the cracks showed. But what if that was the point? One former soldier put it like this, quote, "It takes about a week of drill and basic to learn how to march. Once you do, it's ingrained in you for life. You self-correct if you fall out of step. You've got a point person calling cadence. So when the whole formation is off, this clusterfuck of a parade leaves me with only one conclusion. This was a silent protest, a foxtrot Delta Tango. This wasn't about honoring the troops. Let's be honest. This was about honoring Trump on his birthday, on the Army's anniversary, co-opted by a wannabe dictator. And maybe, just maybe, these soldiers didn't want to play along. Because in America, you can't fake loyalty. And these soldiers showed you sure as hell can't force it. What if the soldiers in Trump's military parade were